This week's Siskel and Ebert review, Mel Gibson and Danny Glover in Lethal Weapon 3. Winona Ryder takes Jenna Rollins for a ride in Night on Earth. And Wesley Snipes and Eric Stoltz struggle for dignity and survival in the Waterdance.
Man, what's the matter with you?
There's a bomb in that building.
No,
there's a bomb in that building.
there is none.
There is a bomb in that building. And you know how come I know there's a bomb in the building? Because I got 8 days to retirement, and I will not make a stupid mistake.
Mel Gibson and Danny Glover are partners in crime fighting once again in Lethal Weapon 3, one of 5 new movies we'll be reviewing this week on Siskel and Ebert. I'm Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times.
And I'm Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune. Our first film is Lethal Weapon 3, and seeing it reminds me of a conversation I once had with the legendary director Howard Hawks. I asked him to define a good movie, and he said, a good movie is 3 good scenes and no bad scenes. Well, Lethal Weapon 3 has 1 good scene and at least a dozen bad ones. Once again, Mel Gibson and Danny Glover play best buddy detectives here in the really dull opening 45 minutes of this movie. They've been busted and they turn into patrol cops. A sample of the dim dialogue here as they bust a jaywalker.
Can we speed this up, please? You may have nothing to do. I have things to do today, okay?
No, we can't. So will you shut up?
Jaywalking license. Yeah? License? Jaywalking? Yeah, jaywalking.
I don't have it on me, okay? I wasn't driving, okay? I was walking. What, do I need a walking license now?
Let's just shoot
Oh, is he crazy?
Get out of the way, Roger. I'm going to drill him.
We can make it look like suicide. Get out of the way. We can make it look like suicide.
Video camera.
I don't care. I'm still going to drill him. Get out of the way.
Get out of here before my father kills you.
Along for the ride is the albatross around their neck from Lethal Weapon 2, Joe Pesci as Leo Getz. When Pesci isn't funny, you know you're watching a bad movie.
It's a big party. Somebody brought a monkey because the monkey knocked over the salad bar. And this guy comes and introduced me to another guy who wants a favor. I got it. I got it.
What?
I got it. And I remember.
You got it.
I remember.
You remember.
Hey, don't do it. Don't let the earring fool you. Okay.
A new character is a kung fu fighting detective played by Renee Russo. She dispatches a gang of gun runners led by a crooked cop. The only good scene in the movie is the romantic one between Mel Gibson and Renee Russo when they undress by comparing scars earned on the job.
Pump action, 12 gauge. Mm-hmm. Yeah, right down here.
All right.
And through.
Oh, that must have hurt.
When?
Not too close.
Riggs, if you were that close, I'd be dead.
I can beat it. I can beat it. Now look at this.
I'll take your word for it.
No, really, you gotta see this.
That's cute and it's fresh, but that's it. The villains in Lethal Weapon 3 couldn't be more bland. They are hardly any threat to these characters. There are too few scenes with Danny Glover's family, who are the only vibrant characters in the film, and every bantering scene between Glover and Gibson seems forced, as if these guys, these actors, knew that the third time around, their quarrelsome act was getting tired, and tired is a good word to describe Lethal Weapon 3, and what I mean by tired between them, Roger, is we know that they love each other, right? And anyone who watches this movie would know that. So why not write it that way? Why not try to redo the beginning of the picture?
It is written that way, Gene. It is written that way. Their bantering is based on love. I think you're completely misreading it if you think it means anything else. I think this movie has 3 good scenes. I'll name the other 2. I love the armored car chase, and I love that scene at the end where they tear up the whole construction site with fire and bulldozers and everything else. Those are good scenes, and I also agree with you. The scene where the foreplay consists of looking at each other's gunshot scars is a very funny, very effective scene. I enjoyed this movie more than you did.
Obviously.
It's not up to the first 2, which set a very high standard, but it is an entertaining movie.
Roger, the beginning of this movie, the stuff that you named is all in the back half of the picture. weren't you absolutely bored by the set of this movie?
You said the first 45 minutes.
Yes.
I think you meant to say the first 7 minutes.
No, I'm saying the first...
The bomb scene.
No, exactly.
And then,
no. The bomb scene, the jaywalking is dull.
They're busted to the beat for about 2 minutes of screen time, and then the chase scene starts with the armored cars.
How about the villains? How about the villains, Roger? Were they interesting?
The villains were weak in this movie.
Thank you.
The villains were... What? Thank you what?
Let me tell you what.
Anything.
No. We've always said that in action pictures, that the strength of an action picture is defined by the strength of the villain. Because if you don't care what the problem is,
we've always said that that's sometimes true.
We
haven't always said that it's always true.
It's always true. Go on to the next film.
Okay, our next film is a very peculiar and sort of quietly insinuating movie named The Favor, The Watch, and The Very Big Fish. And for some reason, I can see why, that title made me think of The Cook, The Thief, His Wife, and Her Lover. But the two movies couldn't possibly have less in common. This is a whimsical comedy set in Paris and starring Bob Hoskins as a weird little photographer who specializes in religious photography. One day, to help out a sick friend, he agrees to go on an acting assignment and is astonished to find out what kind of movie he's going to be dubbing. That's Natasha Richardson as the actress there, and before long, Hoskins is seeing her everywhere. Meanwhile, through a chain of coincidences which the movie has some fun with, Hoskins' search for Richardson leads to his discovery of a new model who is ideal to pose for the starring role of Jesus Christ.
Those other actors who played Jesus in the films, they didn't look a thing like him.
No?
No, but when I look at you, I think, now, there's a man who could really save the world.
And that, of course, is Jeff Goldblum, who begins to take his new role very much to heart and develops a fixation that he is the second coming of Christ. The Favor, The Watch, and The Very Big Fish is the kind of movie that a lot of people probably won't like, but that a few people will probably like very much. I'm sort of in the second camp. This is an oddball, offbeat film, which, although it is set in Paris, seems to have a peculiarly British aura to it, especially in the way its characters persist in believing that they are sane long after everybody else has given up on them. I liked it.
And I didn't. I like the setup. I think the premise is very cute. Obviously, somebody has to take these religious pictures, and I think that's very funny. If you think, I mean, you will not be able to look, after you see this picture, at a religious picture and think of this concept, which is very cute. I think once they get beyond that idea, I don't think the picture delivers. I don't think that the Bob Hoskins, Natasha Richardson love affair, and here are two very good actors, I don't think that that is particularly good. They resort to the porno dubbing sequence, which ever since it was done, and When Harry Met Sally now, it just doesn't seem as funny when you hear somebody faking an orgasm. I don't think a picture delivered beyond that. Goldblum, I didn't think was really
Well, I don't know what level you really want it to deliver on, because it doesn't deliver great big laughs.
No.
It's more like a Jacques Tati movie in the sense that
it feels very
tiny
old.
little things happen and people kind of quietly relate to them and react to them, and that's what the movie is doing.
It's real quiet, and Jacques Tati had some big laughs. Coming up next, Wesley Snipes deals with life from a wheelchair in The Waterdance.
What's the matter, Harley? You running out of gas? You know, this man got a problem with a race. I told him that it's nothing but ignorance and fear. That's all it is. Ignorance and fear. You're right to tell him. Tell him. Ignorance and fear.
Oh, it could just be a zinc deficiency.
That's Eric Stoltz, best known as the disfigured boy in Mask, playing another complicated character, a bright man, a writer with a spinal cord injury in a wonderful new film called The Waterdance. And right about now, I can hear everybody saying to themselves, yeah, that's just what I want to see on a Saturday night, a movie about a guy with a spinal cord injury. But The Waterdance is most entertaining, bright, smart, and eye-opening. This is anything but a Disease of the Week movie. In the beginning of the film, Stoltz's bedridden character is befriended by a fellow patient played by Wesley Snipes, who fancies himself a ladies' man.
I had one woman like that once. Oh, she was a beauty. White woman. Name was Annabelle Lee. Stripper. 3 weeks in a tiny little bed in a tiny little room. Oh,
Ray, what are we gonna do, man? Huh? We gotta listen to your stories all day and night, man?
Stoltz is soon visited by his woman friend, a strong, independent character, estranged from her husband, played by Helen Hunt. She's come to have sex with Stoltz. The attending nurse is played by Elizabeth Pena. You might remember her from Jacob's Ladder.
We understand the patient's need for sex therapy, but on the ward, well, the other patients tend to feel left out.
The relationship between Stoltz and Helen Hunt is fresh, and it's very raw at times. Another patient, played by William Forsythe, warns that hanging on to a woman from a hospital bed isn't easy.
How long do you think it's going to take for that pretty little girl of yours leaves you for somebody who can tune her engine, my man?
One of the more conventional aspects of the movie is when the guys in the ward sneak out together to visit a stripper.
Turn left up ahead here.
I thought the strip joint was on Duval.
Look out, man!
Boy, that guy sure came out of nowhere. Good thing we're already paralyzed.
It's certainly a conventional idea to include that in a movie, but even that scene, which is so much like the fishing trip in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, even that scene has some original elements. It's not all played for laughs. So credit Neil Jimenez for a bright, original script, and this comes on top of a very good script he wrote for the troubled teen film River's Edge. And together, I think these two films mark Neil Jimenez as one of the brightest writing talents around. He also co-directed The Waterdance, which is a film I really liked.
I really liked it too, Gene. And you know, the reason that I liked it is that it is matter of fact.
Yes.
Now, I don't want that to sound as if it's boring, because there are some big laughs and some big emotional moments in the film, but it is a movie about something that has happened to the character and how he reacts to it and how he learns from it and how he adapts to it and how he rebels against it and how it changes his life and how he deals with that, so that it answers, in a way, so many questions that so many people probably have about what does it do to you when you have an injury of this sort.
And the way it does it, Roger, is that it is very specific about this character. In other words, the standard movie of the week, the TV movie, Disease of the Week movie, says that the most important thing is showing the disease. Well, forget it. This is a very specific character. In fact, I'd even argue that the situations all these guys are in, if you took away the wheelchairs, they'd still be fascinating. And so they've written it sharp, and it works
you know,
in a universal way.
I'll give you an example of why Jimenez is such a good writer. Look at the relationship he has, the character has, with the woman in this movie. It's not like it's his wife or his girlfriend, and she's a saint and she's courageous. She's cheating on her husband. They're having an affair. Suddenly her boyfriend is paralyzed. What do? They're both grown-up people. They're both smart. They both have tempers and angers and an edge, and the way they relate to each other is very well written, very realistic.
You haven't seen that relationship before.
No,
Coming up next, 5 cab rides, 5 strange stories in Night on Earth.
You go to Brooklyn?
Hello. How are you?
Our next movie is Night on Earth, a new film by Jim Jarmusch that takes place entirely inside taxicabs late at night in 5 of the world's great cities. It's told in 5 sequences, starting out in Los Angeles, where Gena Rowlands plays a casting director who becomes intrigued by her cab driver, played by Winona Ryder, as a chain-smoking, gum-chewing, tough girl.
What about marriage and family? Definitely. Definitely want a family. Boys, though. Lots of boys.
Well, no girls? Girls are nice, too, I think.
Yeah, maybe some girls, too.
In New York, Giancarlo Esposito gets a ride with a cab driver newly arrived from East Germany. He's played by Arma Mueller-Stahl, and he has no idea how to drive a cab, so Esposito realizes he's going to have to get behind the wheel.
He has the same head.
What?
The same head.
No, mine's different.
Oh, no, it's the same head.
Mine's different, man.
This is different, yeah.
Look, mine's the newest, latest. Mine's fresh.
No, the ear things here. The same. Ear.
No, man. Look, mine is the hype.
What is this? Hype?
The hype.
What's the hype?
It's fresh.
Fresh? Fresh head?
It's the jammy, the newest, latest.
Esposito picks up his sister-in-law, played by Rosie Perez of White Men Can't Jump, and she gives them both an earful.
Somebody gonna tell me what the is going on around here?
What you mean?
What do I mean? What the are you driving this cab for, Yo-Yo, huh? Hey, what's up with the hat? What is it, the Rocky and Bullwinkle show?
And in the middle of the night, in the middle of Paris, a cab driver from the Ivory Coast talks with a strange, angry, blind woman.
Ça doit pas être marrant d'être aveugle, hein?
Écoute, pauvre con, je suis aveugle et alors, je sais tout ce que tu fais, toi, encore plein d'autres trucs que tu feras jamais. Je suis aveugle, c'est tout.
Bon, par exemple, vous n'êtes pas capable de conduire.
Ah, tu t'es pas vu conduire, hein?
Night on Earth was directed by Jim Jarmusch, whose Mystery Train took place mostly at night in Memphis, Tennessee. And I think he believes the night is a time when people let down their reserves and say what's really on their minds. And I think he's right. This is an uneven movie. The Rome sequence with its kinky cab driver and a dying priest didn't really seem to work, but the cumulative effect of these stories is of warring humans striking an uneasy peace and sharing their true feelings in the middle of the night.
Well, Roger, I like this guy's work, and I like the situations, and I like everything you said about the night. I don't think that the sequences as a group deliver, and I was a little bit surprised. Frankly, I think that potentially the most interesting one was the very first one, between Jenna Rollins and Winona Ryder, two wonderful actresses, and I could have seen that cab ride play out, and I was disappointed. I felt that the ones that did work a little bit, when they got going, they were cut off very short. I think that one and maybe the last one in Helsinki had some potential for being big stories. The rest of the stuff, Rosie Perez, for example, seeing Rosie Perez do her thing again, which we saw in Do the Right Thing and White Men Can Jump, and she is a wonderful actress. But I'm telling you, the third time...
so quick. We're so quick.
Yes, we're quick.
You know, like 2 years ago, we never heard of Rosie Perez. A week ago, we were thrilled, and now we're tired she's doing her thing again. Come on, Gene, give her a break.
No, I'm going to give her a break because in the other films, she had more scenes, so she just didn't come on and spout her foul mouth.
Well, but that's because it's the structure of this film. What I do agree with you, though, is that a couple of these would have been good starts for feature-length films, and I think that one would have been, too, the one that takes place in New York. I think they should have invited the East German in, and then we could see how he related to their family life.
Would have been more interesting. Coming up next, an overworked stockbroker finds love at the Metropolitan Museum and all the Vermeers in New York.
You love it up here, don't you?
Our next film is an attempt to achieve something poetic and elliptical on film. It's called All the Vermeers in New York, referring to the great 17th century Dutch artist known for his poetic and elliptical portraits, of which less than 3 dozen survive. Set in the world of these paintings is the story of a New York stockbroker and a mysterious young woman. Stephen Lack plays the broker.
What do you mean you have a headache? I just saved your ass. You could have been hanging out with your schwanz in the wind if it wasn't for me. Hey, don't tell me it didn't die. So it looks like it's alive. I'm telling you it's dead. There's no floor to it. If it bounced off the walls on the way down.
Visiting New York's Metropolitan Museum, the broker happens upon a young woman who fascinates him as much as the Vermeer paintings they're both looking at.
It's amazing, isn't it?
As their relationship develops, the stockbroker confesses his dissatisfaction with his job.
I'm just sitting there in the office watching numbers change, and I'm supposed to make money on knowing where the numbers are going to go next time. It's enough. I have had it. And if it wasn't for those girls, those paintings being as eternal as they suggest themselves to be, I would have been gone.
What's this film all about? Obviously, there is an artistic need in human beings that needs to be fulfilled, and I think that's the source of the vitality in this film. So often we see American movies where the characters need to solve an external threat, punish a bad guy, or satisfy some kind of physical goal, drive fast. Well, here, independent filmmaker John Jost gives us a character who needs some mystery and some ephemeral beauty in his life, and that's a different kind of a chase story, one that I enjoyed watching in All the Vermeers in New York.
Yeah, especially since he projects almost all the qualities on this woman that he wants to find there, and she doesn't necessarily have anything that he thinks she has, including, incidentally, a resemblance to any of the Vermeer paintings, even though he tells her she looks just like one of his paintings.
But the drive inside him is very real, and you know what I'm talking about, a different kind of chase story.
He wants to find somewhere in this barren life that he leads some kind of beauty or some kind of idealized perfection, and he decides this girl, this woman, this is it, and turns out she's not.
It's a fresh film. Coming up next, our video pick of the week, another good film featuring Eric Stoltz from the Waterdance.
Now it's time for the video pick of the week, and I'd like to recommend another good film starring Eric Stoltz, who was so effective in The Waterdance. The name of the movie is Mask, directed by Peter Bogdanovich in 1985, and starring a younger Stoltz as the disfigured son of a rebellious biker mom, played by Cher. She may not be a conventional parent, but she does treasure her son's unique and courageous personality.
You know, it takes time for people to get to like each other. I don't know why you think it should be different for you.
But I am different, Mom.
Yeah, you're more beautiful on the inside than most people. Anybody can't see that?
Thrill 'em.
Right. Spoken like the true son of a red-headed woman.
Eric Stoltz has a quiet power as an actor that sometimes has more force than other actors generate by letting out all the emotional stops. In Mask and in The Waterdance, he is able to bring strength and dignity to his embattled characters. They're both very good movies. Now let's take another look at the movies we reviewed this week. We had a split decision on Lethal Weapon 3. Gene thought it had only one good scene. I liked it, but not as much as the first films. Another split decision on The Favor, The Watch, and The Very Big Fish. I liked its quietly understated humor. Gene thought it didn't add up to much. 2 enthusiastic thumbs up for The Waterdance, with Eric Stoltz, Wesley Snipes, and William Forsythe coping with the new reality of their lives in wheelchairs. A split decision on Night on Earth with its 5 stories in 5 taxicabs. I liked the mood and tone of the film. Gene only liked 2 of the stories. Finally, 2 thumbs up for John Jost's All the Vermeers in New York, about a man hoping to find truth and beauty in an imperfect world. So the one we're both in agreement on is The Waterdance, and this movie is really an extraordinary job.
It's very well done. The subject matter might seem like it's depressing. Watching the film definitely is not. That's it for this week. Next time we'll be back with a special program we're calling The Movies We Loved as Kids. Roger and I will revisit the key films that made an impression on us as we started going to the movies. Do they hold up a second time around? That's next week. And until then, the balcony is closed.
Rice-A-Roni. Any day of the week, the flavor can't be beat. Rice-A-Roni, the San Francisco treat. No nonsense pantyhose, as beautifully put together as the women who wear them. No nonsense. Shower yourself with a new sensation, new refreshing sheet.